Blimey, mate. You did well last year.
Yeah, dude. Maybe next time you'll be able to join us on open world.
Golly gee, that would be great, guys. Well, hey guys, I'm an open world game. Mind if I join in?
Hell no, kid.
Get lost, dude.
Your open world stank.
Open world design has taken the gaming industry by storm. As every franchise scrambles with how to transition to open world, one important question arises. What makes a successful open world? The answer to this are many, and yet Pokemon Scarlet and Violet don't answer a single one.
What? Okay, I lied. It answers some of them, but that doesn't sound as impactful now, does it? Hey, wait, hear me out. While Pokemon Scarlet and Violet isn't some absolute criminal of open world design, it is a criminal of game design in an open world. Whoa, hold on, you guys haven't even heard what I'm talking about yet. Now, I'm not objectively saying SV is a great game or a bad game. As with anything, there are pros and cons. But criticism and praise belong where they're due. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet betrayed open world design by using many of its own design philosophies. Not sure what I mean? Are these words I'm using too big? You know, words like it and with? Whew, mouthfuls. Well, allow me to explain what makes an open world successful and showcase how Pokemon SV stacks up. Also, apologies to GameFreak in advance. I know you guys can do better when given the proper amount of time, but many of these things could have been avoided with better planning. Oh man, what the? I wasn't even touching it. Wow, this is ridiculous. Perhaps the most noticeable benefit of an open world is the ability to choose your own adventures, forge your own challenges, initiate your own battles. Let's look at Breath of the Wild for example. Once given the world to explore, players can head in any direction they want, and they can mostly succeed no matter which path they choose, thanks to a variety of options. An area is too cold? You can either gather supplies to give cold protection or find some warm clothes to buy. Alternatively, you can wear a flame sword for a source of heat or create campfires. What a wonderful thing I like to call options. Can't scale a mountain quite yet? There's almost certainly a path we can take on the other side of it. Feeling a bit frisky? You can take as many layers off Link as you want. Wait a minute. Who put this in the script? Now, a lack of options in Scarlet and Violet isn't the point I want to make. I'm not here to say that, by comparison, it overly limits the player. Matter of fact, I think that's one of the few things it does right with its open world. The ability to traverse most of the map fairly early on is awesome. The lack of level scaling doesn't really stop this from being enjoyable either. Some areas just feel more dangerous and out of reach, which can be a fun sensation. My issue lies more so in the fact that wild Pokemon constantly break up that pace. In Scarlet and Violet, running into wild Pokemon unintentionally is a huge roadblock you'll face almost constantly. Okay, imagine you're playing Breath of the Wild, and you expose a shrine. You're ready to run over to it. The sheer mystery of what fun puzzles awaits you in the shrine fills your mind. You're halfway there, and then... Bitch, what the fuck? Oh, hell no, this little dude snuck up on me. That's annoying. Okay, gotta run. And wow, this was inconvenient. You run into a tiny bug on the ground that you couldn't even see. You're forced to stand still for at least 5 to 10 seconds just to click an option that says run away. Now, imagine that also oftentimes after you finish a fight, there's another enemy standing right there, ready to spark another battle, and there's nothing you can do about it. They gatekeep another 5 to 10 seconds of your life, and it's oftentimes exacerbated by poor performance. Now this is a game, am I right? In the 20 to 30 seconds you just spent wasting your time in menus, you could have already gone up and entered the shrine by now. You know, actually be doing something fun with your time. This is perhaps the most glaring issue in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. It tries to tote the term open world, which should spark a feeling of wonder and excitement, but then most of the game is actually just this. Whew. That scared me. Ugh, great, now I gotta run from this. Any moment now. Wow, it's lagging so bad the sound effect doesn't even match up, but... Oh, you're kidding me! Oh my gosh, I have to do this again? Wait, what? 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 It was all the way over there! This is so annoying! The entire mechanic of touching a Pokemon to spark a battle is antithetical to open world design. This mechanic alone disincentivizes you from interacting with the world around you. The map is meant to be explored at your own pace, not at the mercy of the game's RNG. Oh, you thought random encounters were gone? Ha! Pokemon spawning in right in front of you is basically the same thing. And every time this happens, it gatekeeps at least 5 to 10 seconds of your time. That time adds up too. I can only imagine the sheer number of hours we've all wasted having to skip battles we did not initiate ourselves. In other open world games, battles are always sparked by the player. Even if an enemy finds you, you can run away in real time. And you're still interacting with the open world by using its terrain to escape. Hell, even Pokemon Legends Arceus did a better job at this than SV, and that was a sandbox game. In Legends, if a Pokemon touched you, either nothing would happen, or your character would take damage. The only way to get locked into a turn-based fight is by initiating it yourself. You have to throw out a Pokemon to enter battle. Conversely, you have the option to just fight the Pokemon without your Pokemon. Items like mud balls and spoiled apricorns can fend them off if you don't have time to waste battling. Or you can even catch them right there on the spot without having to wait or go through a battle. It's odd to say a sandbox game did open world better than, well, an open world game, yet here we are. But this issue of being forced out of the open world isn't just exclusive to Initiation Assassination. As I mentioned, the goal of open world games is to allow the player an expansive playground to constantly entertain themselves with. Sadly, in direct contrast to this, the developers thought it was okay to regress back to a slow battle format. For an open world experience to feel cohesive, you need to have some sort of synergy between the fast pace of exploration and the speed of turn-based battles. Unfortunately, Scarlet and Violet missed this memo. Multi-hit attacks keep you seated for 2 to 5 times longer than you needed to be, because you have to sit and watch every individual hit, with very poor animations, might I add. Or, you know, none at all, apparently. And this wouldn't mean anything if multi-hit attacks weren't good, but they're some of the better moves in the game at certain points, so you're forced to sit here through this. Stat changes do the same thing. Titan fights, for example, are made to be less fun thanks to their buffs kicking in. Like, look at this! We really have to wait for each individual stat change to be named by text one at a time instead of in one text box. To top it all off, Scarlet and Violet has gaps of load time between text and visuals that extend the time we have to wait even further. For a game that exists almost entirely in menus, I'm baffled they didn't optimize them at all. I hate this game so much, that should not have taken that long. Alright, time for more moves to take long. Oh, well, here comes more waiting because my item kicked in when I was gonna move first anyways, and the move still hasn't even started. Look at this, I hate this game. What gets me even more flabbergasted though is the revelation that Pokemon Legends, released earlier in the same year, fixed all this issues. Wow, it's honestly really funny how much I'm referencing Legends. It's almost as if GameFreak can adapt their games to open world scenarios, they just chose not to for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Anyways, stat changes in Legends were shown all at once with symbols indicating them afterwards. Multi-hit attacks were taken out entirely because, they acknowledge that they're pointless, and the menus and UI were fast and responsive. There was little to no waiting in Pokemon Legends, and the game was all the better for it. I really wish Pokemon Scarlet and Violet had taken note. But that being said, we can finally talk about other betrayals to the open world besides pacing issues. Let's take a look at these 3 games. What do all these clips have in common? I'll give you a bit of time to figure that out, but while you do, I'd like to explain something about open world. An open world is created with a reason. The fundamental value of why players like open worlds can be boiled down to one thing: immersion. We want to be immersed in the fictional world, with no stopgaps separating us from where we are sitting and what we are doing in the game. Now, what did these 3 games have in common? To put it simply, the world around them is cohesive, and the collectibles also blend in with the environments in the same regard. There's a magical line developers must follow for making collectibles simultaneously stand out and blend in with the world around them. And it's a rather thin line. But Pokemon Scarlet and Violet just said F it and placed Pokeballs with beams of light everywhere. Oh, and the items you pick up also make no sense. Are people really just dropping Pokeballs holding valuable items everywhere? I highly doubt that, especially not to this extent. Seriously, the amount of ball pits we could make with all these balls is just wow. It's hilarious that I'm bringing this up again, but Legends Arceus once again did this better. The collectibles bridged the magic line between standing out and looking like they belong in the environment. Beyond that, it makes much more sense to have collectibles be actual materials rather than entire man-made items. Seriously, this is like if you were walking around the wilderness, looked down at your feet, found a Pokeball, and inside was a new iPhone. It just doesn't add up. An open world should have believable collectibles to interact with. A believable game world will even have varying materials based on what region of the map you're on. And in Scarlet and Violet, the entire map is just littered with iPhone 15s. It's actually pretty wild. But I get it. You probably think this segment sounded a little too nitpicky. And hey, maybe you're right, but you're also wrong. The next biggest reason people love to play open world games is for unique rewards that can only come from an open world. Imagine you're playing Breath of the Wild. You're standing at the hill, seeing this vast, expansive world. But before you go off exploring this huge, in-depth map, one that you're so excited to get lost in, the game tells you exactly where all your major destination points will be throughout the game. So, instead of feeling the freedom to explore wherever you want, you're subconsciously picking and choosing a direction to travel beforehand. Now imagine that you started your journey from Kakariko Village, a small little settlement, but you need to go somewhere bigger, Hateno Village. After taking a pretty direct path here, let's also pretend there really aren't any collectibles or notable landmarks that swayed you from your destination. Oh, and along the way, you run into a bunch of invisible bugs that time lock you for 10 seconds each just so you can press run away. You finally arrive at Hateno. It's larger, yeah, but okay, now what? Imagine, it turns out all the shops here are exactly the same as in Kakariko, just with a different coat of paint. Huh, see what I did there? There's no unique reason to be in this town over Kakariko other than pure aesthetic and progression through the game. Kind of a letdown, right? Oh, and I forgot to mention, let's pretend we also cannot go indoors to any of the houses or shops. Everything you see exists outside or in menus. Now, imagine this is the case for the entire game, where we rinse and repeat all the steps I just mentioned for the rest of the campaign. There's some beautiful vistas along the way, sure, but they're shallow. It's all a painted paper walkway. Couple this with the slow turn-based battles, and the forced encounters with enemies you simply accidentally touch constantly because they're too small to see, or they popped up right in front of you. And Zelda Breath of the Wild doesn't really sound nearly as enticing now, does it? That god-awful game I just described is Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. It has nearly zero worthwhile rewards for the player exploring its open region. Let's start with the Gimmighoul Collectathon. It doesn't even hold a candle to how other open worlds handle this. What makes collectathons and other open worlds so good? Well, with Koroks, they're hidden cleverly in the overworld. We basically have to solve a puzzle to get them as well. This makes each one we find feel satisfying, and there's 999 of these babies scattered everywhere. I'm beating a dead horse here, I swear, but even in Pokemon Legends Arceus, we had 2 collectathons that were both better than the Gimmighoul one. The Spirit collectibles weren't much of a step up, sure, but at least they incentivized you to find the outermost stretches of the maps and search every nook and cranny you could find. And then there's the Unknown Collectathon. Now this is how you do an open world collectathon. So many of these were hidden in such clever ways that really made you second guess every area you were in. I had such a blast fighting these guys that it made me sad there were only 26. But boy, were they quality! Meanwhile, Gimmighoul just kinda chills there in the open. Oh, and the little f***er makes noises so we know exactly where he is. Where's the fun in that? This could have been so much more fun if we required less of them and they were just hidden more cleverly in the overworld. The lazy spawns are truly a side effect of time constraints. Then, there's the fact that Scarlet and Violet doesn't really have side quests. You know what game I'm about to compare this to, don't even lie. Here's a hint, it actually had side quests, and they were fun. Rhymes with Pokemon Pejins Carcius? Anyone? Okay, I won't go too in-depth, but just know that Pokemon Legends had side quests everywhere, and they really did a great job of expanding the lore of the Pokemon, the region, and the world in general. There's also no notable landmarks in SV. Even the so-called 10 sites of Paldea are pitiful. I kid you not. The 10 sites of Paldea include a literal beach. Yes, just a beach, nothing on it. 3 rocks sticking out of the water. And not even like in a cool way like the ones in Pokemon Legends, just 3 rocks like anywhere else in the Pokemon region. And there's even some rocks behind them. So like, but the 3 rocks are apparently the site. A sign overlooking one of the cities that you have to visit anyways. Okay, that's just lazy. A literal waterfall. I'm not joking here. And another one of the 10 sites is a double waterfall. Whoa! Okay, I can't even finish naming all these. This just makes me sad. I think you can see my point already about how disappointing exploring Paldea is, because there's no real rewards for exploring it. It's the single most shallow, graphically underwhelming, glitchy, and pointless open world I've ever had the displeasure of wandering. It can be pretty at times, yeah, and it can be fun to traverse an expansive area with your Pokemon, but the design flaws rear their ugly heads so commonly that I find myself putting the game back down in less than 30 minutes of playtime. Alright, I'm just here to get some footage for the game.
Oh man, good luck with that.
I know, right? Wow, this... I never realized, but this load screen not only is long, but so boring. I wish they would put something here. You know, anything. Oh, well, I was standing on air. Wow, this is not what I wanted to get footage for, but... You're kidding me. And of course it has Intimidate. I'm so done with this game. And I usually leave to play a game that has a more fulfilling world to explore. You know, like Pokemon Legends. I trust one day GameFreak will be given the time to make another passion project, but for now, they're stuck pushing out yearly releases of cookie-cutter Pokemon games. It's clear they want to experiment and reinvent their own wheel at this point, but the Pokemon Company seems to have them at their mercy. It's tragic that the most beloved media franchise in the world is held hostage by such a greedy corporation. And worse, Paldea could have been an epic step into a true open-world Pokemon title, but instead, it stumbled on its own archaic design philosophies, thanks to a simple lack of planning. I love this franchise, I really do. My name is Johto Jonny, for crying out loud. But unfortunately, as long as we all keep buying these mediocre titles over the quality ones, we're never going to see the improvements we want. In my eyes and in my own headcanon, Pokemon Legends is really the only Nintendo Switch Pokemon title. It's the only one that I find worthwhile, and it's the only quality Pokemon game that I can think of since Pokemon Sun and Moon. In which case, it's probably going to be another 5 or 6 years until I get another Pokemon game, because after this, I really am done giving them my money for mediocrity. On the bright side, we're living in a weird year right now where we do have the option to get a great Pokemon game instead. Also released the same year, you know, just saying, you can totally do that. Yup. You're still gonna buy Scarlet and Violet, aren't you? Special shout out to my patrons on Patreon for making this video possible. You can get rewards for joining my support team there as well, such as discounts on my merchandise store, having your name at the end of every video, and special privileges during streams. Just click the link here in front of you, or continue watching with some more of my videos, such as this one where I discuss the evolution of Pokemon's secret formula and why it remains so successful.